Again. I have a couple of really fun things we're going to do tonight that are kind of a little different than what I've done. And as I go through this process of building up the channel and kind of organically seeing where it goes, I think one of the best ways to cultivate that is to kind of throw some stuff in here and there and see how it flows from me and how it is accepted by you guys. And if the community decides it's something they want to continue with, and let's go ahead and do that. And so one of the things that I thought would be really fun is anybody who pops in, what I'm going to do is just grab a random card, just regardless of any other readings that we do or anything else, just to be fun. And the deck that I chose today is going to be our Spotlight deck, which is really a beautiful deck, and if you're familiar with it, then you know what you're in for. It's a lot of fun. It's the Deviant Moon by Valenza. What a gorgeous interpretation of the tarot. This is a very personal, sort of intimate view into this man's psyche. And when somebody is that truthful in their presentation of what they're feeling, and that is coupled with a skill that allows them to communicate it properly, like to actually put down what they're envisioning, we're very fortunate, right? And that's occurred in a couple of cases, like for instance the Alchemical Tarot with Robert M. Place, obviously Frida Harris and Crowley, and what they did is really the gold standard. The beautiful connection between Arthur Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith, and what came from that, obviously, is priceless. And I think Patrick is definitely an example of that, right? And so we're going to kind of be pulling cards randomly throughout the evening for anybody who pops in on the stream. Hey, Shally. So here's an example of that. Let's just pull a random card for you. This is from Deviant Moon, just for the heck of it. There's no reason for this, and we can do a reading for you later. But just for the heck of it, it's a random card for you right here. This is Seven of Wand. You'll notice a lot with Patrick and his artwork that there's a warm tone to the colors. With a lot of decks, you'll have, especially these borderless type decks, you'll have this vibe when you spread it out on the visible corner, right? So when you spread the deck, there's this kind of like color pattern that you'll see that emerges. And in this particular deck, if you notice when we do that, so do I. Love this deck. It all has that kind of warm, brownish, reddish tone to it. And is just a very interesting... a lot of decks have more of like a rainbowy kind of vibe, and it sort of, changes a lot. And this, you can see that there's an overall arcing kind of energy to it. And obviously in the art itself, the actual depiction of the forms and it's very consistent. right? Persistent to the degree that it really immerses you into this world. And it's one that, when I first got the deck and looked at it, it was out of pure curiosity. I had seen a review on a channel that I watch, and thought, well, wow, there's something there. There was one particular card actually that kind of drew me in, and when I got the deck and looked at it, I thought, wow, this is beautiful, and I'm never going to use it, right? I'm never going to read with this. It's so emotional in a way that is hard to describe, because it's not negative. It's a different kind of place. No, thank you for popping in. I'm going to be starting readings in a little bit here, and I'll be happy to give you some general guidance. No problem. These two there's something about the mask that they're wearing, right? There's something about that shape that has manifested personally in my life many, many times. And so these cards just kind of popped to me when I saw them in the stream. And then I said to myself one day, just get over it. Read the deck, see how it goes, read it for yourself, and just kind of get a sense of its vocabulary, of its accent, and just be open. And it was quite an experience. So we're just going to be pulling random cards for everybody who comes into the stream today. So you have the Seven of Wand, and I find at times it's useful to kind of pop up the cards so that we can compare them to the Rider-Waite system that we're very familiar with, right? And this card we've seen recently too, the Seven of Wand, in respect to having the high ground, being in a position of power. You got together with a group of people toward a goal, and this is the period of time that fight is going on, but now you find yourself kind of alone in the battle. But at the same time, you've generated this strength, and you're doing just fine, and all these adversities really aren't a problem. And it's this idea of the thing that kind of, you're too busy fighting to be afraid. And that's when inner strength can really shine, like when you're in the state of action. So planning's over. Emotional reaction is pointless. It's kind of a Zen state, right? And so that's the Seven of Wand. That's your random card. Random card for Renal. Let's take a look here. Just for the heck of it card, Justice. Another card for another word for justice is basically like zero sum. It's the idea of fairness to its nth degree. Like there's no emotional attachment to that. It also represents the institution from the degree of the rules that we have built over time in our lives, and that form our worldview. And however, it's the rules that are set forth by the society, by the social environment that we live in, right? So it's not the rules of physics, like the laws of nature. This is the laws of man. And the recognition that if applied properly, it creates a balance, right? And if not, injustice. So, yeah. But that said, very quickly before I open up readings, I wanted to just a very interesting little story, and this book is attached to it. This is a cute little book that I grabbed from a yard sale, a church yard sale of all things. Full disclosure: I'm a deacon in a Christian church. And I've been a spiritual advisor for a very large portion of my life. I've been reading tarot for close to 40 years. And there was a point where I discovered its actual power. It wasn't a parlor trick anymore in my teens. And that set me on a path toward discovering some truth. Regardless of the religion that you follow or your structure of faith, there are tools that are available to us to access knowledge that transcends the book you profess, right? They're all just symbolic representations of the same knowledge, whether it's the Torah or the Christian Bible or the Quran or even the Vedas. You know, the sutras. It's all the same. And when you stick it all together and you shake it really hard until all the stuff that's different falls away, you'll notice that each thing is left with it something, and they're all the same, and there's this sort of universal doctrine. So regardless of your faith, there's a truth. And so long story short, we had a yard sale, and this was at the yard sale, and it's funny, this came from the church, and this is a very neat little book. This book was published in 1974, I believe. It's called Sun Sign Revelations by Marie Elise Cremer. And what it is like a little kind of, if you've ever bought a tarot deck, there's a little book that comes with the deck, right? It's called the Little White Book in the community. Or sometimes when we're doing readings and we get a card that's really heavy, but we go for the surface meaning, we joke saying, oh, that's the Little White Book meaning. Well, what this is kind of similar to that, but for astrology. And so for people who, Shinam, hello, here's your random card. For people who wanted to learn astrology, what they did is that, you know, you have these different resources. The magician. The magician is the idea of somebody who has come to the place of understanding that they have power if they use the tools properly, right? There's an idea of a personal mastery, which is the first step toward actually mastering the nature around you. You know, once you think you can do it is when you attempt to, and then things can happen. So the magician is the stage past the fool, where now we're not just blindly acting, we're acting with our will, right? So that's your random card. So people who wanted to learn astrology would go through this process of discovering it in different ways. You know, they would ask people, read some little blurbs in the newspaper and kind of get an idea of what the signs mean. There's books that were available at the time, but not widely. And then it became kind of mainstream in this period between the late 50s and the late 70s. There was a lot that went on because of some characters like Gerald Gardner, Aleister Crowley, Madame Blavatsky, and you know, these groups sort of mainstreamed certain thinking to the point that it kind of became not just mainstream, but popular to the point where publishers wanted to get stuff out so they can take advantage of this kind of wave, right? And so this is an example of that, right? Now, not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with the book, but it's clearly it's not like Alain Milo Duquette, who's like a master of the you know, thelemic arts and decides that he's going to share knowledge and writes a book. This is kind of like, you know, hey, there's this thing and it's a popular subject, and so you'll notice somebody even highlighted. Let's see what they highlighted. Let's have this. I guess for this is the section for Aries, the egomaniac. Under the physical appearance, Aries tends to red or golden coloring, and a complexion is usually ruddy. The large cranium is wide from temple to temple. The planes of the face are flat, and the nose clings to the cheek line somewhere defensively. The mouth is wide, though the lips lack an upward curve, and the teeth are large. Look how specific. Like, wow. Can you imagine just like there's 1/12 of the planet has this big teeth and a huge forehead. Okay, here's the part that was highlighted. Let's find out. The Aries smile is easy and generous, and the eyes are humorous. The body moves quickly and eagerly, and is muscular and lean. Don't we all wish? So I'm going to refer to this book tonight as we go through things. So if you just shoot me your sun sign in the chat, we'll see what this book says about you, and then we'll kind of, you know, see how close it is, right? I just think it's going to be a fun little exercise. Anyone who wants to participate, just drop in your sun sign and let's find out, right? I'm a Sagittarius, so I'll start. Let's see what I'm supposed to look like. Oh, look like somebody, the highlighted here in green is something relating to the dignification of Capricorn. Interesting. Okay. So here, let's find our Sagittarius. Here's Scorpio, so it should be relatively quick. There you go. Okay, Sagittarius, the Don Juan. Okay. I don't know why I'm having so much fun with this, but I am. Okay, the physical appearance. Okay, the first thing, Sagittarius has a tall, symmetrical, well-proportioned appearance. Okay, I'm just going to stop there. You know, obviously anyone who's visited my channel has seen me, in various squares, right? There's this square that you'll see me on. You'll see me on this square, that square, right? But you haven't seen my full form. I'm 5'7" tall. So let's just begin again with Sagittarius, the Don Juan. Physical appearance. Sagittarius has a tall, symmetrical, well-proportioned appearance. The face is long and well-formed. The brow is high and narrow, from temple to temple. The nose is also long. I don't know, let's take a look at that. I don't know if long is the word, let's see. The nose is also long, with well-shaped nostrils that flare slightly. Maybe. The generous mouth has full lips that curve upward in a heart-shaped smile. The teeth are strong, large, and of good quality, with the centrals protruding slightly forward, not unlike a horse's teeth. I don't know why it really is fun though, isn't it? I mean, come on, guys. The eyes are large, dark, and kind. The chestnut, or dark brown hair, is full and abundant. Actually, I went gray in my teens. Sagittarians have more hair than the other signs. Well, you know, if you look at my prior videos from about 4 weeks ago, you'll see that that's true. How much fun. Okay, who's next? Who wants in? I know a couple of people that'll be popping in later and watching this after the fact, and so let me read theirs. Okay, so first of all, this is for Rachel, Leo. So this is again, this is for Rachel. Physical appearance, and actually somebody highlighted this too. Here, let me show you. They put brackets. All right, someone drew that with pen. That wasn't in the book. Those brackets were added. Okay. Leo has faith in himself and behaves in a majestic manner with unmistakable superiority. No one can match Leo for generosity, but he demands exaltation in return. He must be the center of attention, the prima donna. Right. The prima donna is the byline of the sign, right? Anybody in the room that's a Leo think they're a prima donna? Because everyone else thinks you are. Anyways, so, wow, there's a lot of this. Someone underlined a lot of Leo here in pen. This clearly was, an interesting subject for that person. We got a little bit of, like, some faded green under the Aries. Aries rising will give Cancer a strong athletic body. See, I'm a Capricorn rising, so let's go to Sagittarius and look at the rising signs. Sagittarius Sun, Capricorn rising. The Capricorn ascendant will make a most serious, small Sagittarian who is genuinely interested in others. Okay, that's kind of accurate. You know, again, I'm 5'7", so I don't fit the physical appearance of tall. Tall, symmetrical, and well proportioned. But that's true. I am a small Sagittarian who is genuinely interested in others. That's true. Does it have moon? I'm a Taurus moon. No. But how interesting, right? Isn't it a cute book? So some of the topics that we're going to be speaking about tonight include, I have taught literally thousands of people the tarot over the years, whether it's been in seminar form, in a live format, or recorded versions for clients, or streaming and things along those lines. So many different, reading, writing articles and so on over the years. And during that time, a lot of people ask questions about the tarot. Where did this come from? Where did that come from? How do you use this and how do you use that? And one of the questions I get most often, especially from new to intermediate readers, those who are starting to get their chops but have a few puzzle pieces missing, is related to the court cards. What you do when you get them, how to read them, are they people, are they not? Can they be used to read things like time and so forth accurately, and all these things? And really just kind of, clear the air a little bit on some of the misconceptions about how to use those court cards. Also, we'll talk about our karmic silhouette. That's the period of time that we're in right now. It's an amalgamation of the astrological and tarot system that uses the decannate, or what's called the Deacons. And the Deacons are the 10-degree period of time that the sky was divided into. If you divide the sky into 10-degree sections, that gives us 36 Deacons. Now, why 10 degrees? Because 10 is a very holy number, of course. And we'll get into why that is in a future stream. But to give you kind of a quick example of why that is, it becomes more apparent when you consider that very unarguably, the tarot truly is the pictorial representation of the Kabbalistic tree of life, at least the version that most of us are familiar with in the Rider-Waite system is absolutely Golden Dawn based, which is primarily, although not fully, but primarily a Kabbalistic interpretation. It's a Hermetic Kabbalistic knowledge system. So that's kind of intrinsically built into tarot. There are other examples, and I've touched on it on the channel here, with like the alchemical tarot does not use the Rider-Waite system or the Golden Dawn very deliberately. And one of the things I like about that is that, like I talked about with religion, if you really get to the core of what's being told here, it's a story. And that story includes a couple of players that are kind of important, and they follow the story till the end, and they appear often throughout the story in different ways that are unexpected. And there's different names for these, and at the core what we're talking about are the three basic principles of all creation, fire, water, and air, and how they play to create earth, which is physical manifestation. And the alchemical process talks about those with the work of combining the salt, sulfur, and mercury to create this new thing that has many names. The Philosopher's Stone, or the Lapis Philosophorum, the magnum opus, the great, the elixir as part of the process that's used to, well, anyways, there's a process. And that deck and several that have kind of cropped up from there, are very different than the strict Golden Dawn system that uses astrology and these things, right? So the decannate is a very powerful way for us to access a very important question when it comes to the tarot. Where did the meanings come from? Right? Are these arbitrary meanings that somebody just decided, well, this card means this and this card means that, and why does this card mean this and that, right? And so we look at this card here, the Five of Cups, and we have somebody that's looking down at some spilled cups, and they're not noticing that there's some other ones in the background that are not spilled. And so we talk about, as readers, there's different surfaces to this knowledge, but we talk about as readers being distracted looking at the past and missing the future, or we talk about, don't miss the fact that there's abundance, don't miss the forest for the trees. There's lots of ways, and everyone has their own interpretation. We look at it in respect to its elemental, which would be water, the heart, or the feminine energy, all these things. Numerologically, what does the five represent, and so on. But now, if we look at the wheel here, we can reverse engineer this, and we find the Five of Cups on the wheel here, and you'll notice that it's in the period of Scorpio, and what it represents is Mars in Scorpio. Now, those of us familiar with the vocabulary of astrology can kind of discern Mars in Scorpio is a kind of a dominant energy, a scary energy. It's not a pleasant one, right? And through study and applying the symbol systems and intuitively processing that, and then forgetting what you've learned, opening that conduit and letting the creative kind of interpretation of that flow, gives us this archetype, gives us this kind of like silhouette of the truth for this meaning. And so that's where these cards came from. This is where the meaning of these cards came from. It's not just an arbitrary process. It's based on an astronomical framework with a vocabulary that was developed in order to not only understand it, but to extend its meaning as a means of being used as an oracle, being used as a study tool of the human experience, and ultimately as a magical tool that allows us to self-initiate through this journey. So there's many ways that this technique is used. Finding your birth card, which is very similar to your sun sign in a sense. But it's not the same interpretation as a sun sign or a moon sign or your rising. It's its own interpretation. But what it is the deacon that rules the period of time that you were born. And in my particular case, that's represented by the 10 of Wand in December near Sagittarius, the blue at the top there. And you'll notice it's not just Sagittarius, it's also Saturn. And so, instead of just interpreting Sagittarius when coming to the attitude, the personality of the deacon, it has to include Saturn in order to be appropriate, right? And that's the same for others. And by using that card, we can apply that to other circumstances, like the period of time that we're in, the birthday of a love interest, a future event, a past event, and get some different perspectives using that technique. And it's also a good way to kind of jumpstart a general circumstance if you don't know the right way to phrase the question, so to speak. This can guide you through that process. So that said, other than the daily readings, which are posted already for the 11th, and so that would include the daily message, Soul Talk, which is about connections and how we can appropriately listen so that we can respond in the way that's conducive to getting what we want, basically. If today's your birthday, and the mind, body, and soul reading, meeting the Deacons, which we've already kind of touched on a little bit, but we'll get into further. The Spotlight deck with the Deviant Moon, and then the Beautiful Soul, which is a special person this week. And so I hope you stick around for that. So that said, I think it's a good time to open up the list and start doing some readings and throwing some cards and seeing how we feel. So we have to kind of get a refresher of who's still in the room. Obviously, what I'd like to do is honor the order that they came in. If you're still here, let me know. And if not, you're not off the list. I'm just going to move you to the back. And so if you happen to pop back in, then, as your name comes up, we can do the reading then. I notice a lot of people do pop in and out of different streams. I do myself also. And so I'm not going to kick you out because you're at someone else's stream for the time being. And so I'll keep your name on the list. Alright, so whoever would like to participate, just let me know in the stream that you're still here. Give me a thumb up or a hi or here, and we'll continue. And the deck I'm going to be using for readings to start with tonight is the Tarot of the Abyss, which is a really great deck across the board, really depending upon your issue. It can be more minutia, daily, kind of almost idiosyncratic. But then it has this very deep kind of karmic vibe when you look past that surface. And she really, how she accomplished that with pen and ink line art without color is really quite an impressive feat, and one that I'm very jealous of as an artist. You know, that must have been difficult. You know, when you set out to do a project like this, you think, okay, it's a lot. I have to create 78 individual pieces of artwork, and they have to have a very specific connotation, a certain context, a certain direction that the art takes you in respect to meaning. And then, you know, there's this compulsion to just completely put yourself into it, but then at the same time, it has to be recognizable. And so there's that limitation that really allows it to be what it is. And so how an artist navigates that determines the quality of the work. And clearly she has navigated that masterfully. This is not just a person who's good at drawing. This is a person that's good at communicating soul talk. Right? And so it's a very good deck to kind of start with tonight. And as we go through these topics, I'll pop in and out when I think it's relevant and I have something to contribute. And, you know, the idea of soul talk is a big one, because that's where everything, all growth happens, all of it. Like, there's no growth that we go through that does not include this conversation. And so, depending upon the dogma, the vocabulary, the system you come from, there's some correlation to this, to soul talk. Crowley famously called it the achieving conversation with your holy guardian angel. And he defined, you know, once you get through the layers of the poetry of his lies, and you start to shine a light on what he's actually saying, kind of the truth of it, it's this higher self that you can access that is sort of transcendent of your personality and of time, space, and this type of thing, kind of like the real you. And its will is aligned to the greater will, the universal will, basically your karmic trajectory. And if you align with that, then you are unstoppable. You literally have the momentum of the universe, which is kind of hard to compete with, right? So, and the reverse is also true. So anyway, long story short, there's a lot of different ways that you can label this entity: the holy guardian angel, the higher self, the inner child. What it is you, right? We identify with what we decide to identify with. And very often we'll identify with our bodies. We'll identify with our subculture that we feel has accepted us, and that will assist us in persisting our personality, right? So at the end of the day, when we stop and look at the actual experience, there is this difference. There is a difference between our body and our brain, which belongs to the body, and the observer, our mind, not the thoughts, not the thinker, the observer of the thought, the director of the thought. And so, and that's actually very beautifully depicted in the chariot. You have the person in the chariot, and that person is in control, right? They steer the chariot. But there's also these two animals in the front, and those two animals are also part of that equation. And if they decide not to get up and go, then guess what? That chariot is not going to move, right? And so the idea here is that we are the observer, and the body, the brain, one is the black with the white stripes, the other is the white with the black stripes. The body and the brain are also part of that deal, right? We have to convince the brain to want it, and then the brain directs the body and it happens, right? And so, but we're the one on the inside there, thinking that we're in control of all of it, and we are certainly not. Forget about, do we control physical reality? We do not even exist in physical reality. We simply observe it. And we're being fooled into thinking we control it through the ego. The ego actually convinces us that we are our bodies, so that it can sort of quietly run the game in the back while we're not paying attention, right? And it's a very interesting interpretation of that knowledge in the Chariot. So what is soul talk? If Crowley talked about, achieving conversation with your holy guardian angel, then let's just, achieving conversation with talk. The word talk, right? Achieving conversation with, another word for that is talk. Your holy guardian angel, your soul. So soul talk, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about speaking with yourself, which is literally connected to part of the infinite truth. And so, and it literally provides us access to that. And we don't otherwise. Normally, we're walking around as a zombie through our tiny, itsy bitsy little sliver of reality that we take in, thinking that we know and we control any of it. And so what we can do is control how we react to it, and how we interface with it, and how we communicate with it. And through that, we do have power to create change in this world, right? To direct the elements toward a certain form. And how does that happen? Through soul talk. So the reading is designed to get to the heart individually for each person. What is the thing that will assist in that conversation? What is the path you need to take? What is the vocabulary you need to use? What is the approach in your communication that will allow that connection to happen? And that's the soul talk reading. And it to say is powerful is an understatement. It's invaluable. It's a shortcut to talking to yourself, to meeting yourself, to being introduced to the real you. As far as the mind, body, and soul, this is the manifest version of us. The mind in this particular circumstance is the product of the brain. Thoughts. The thing that kind of directs emotion, right? A phenomena occurs. We observe that phenomena. It's very limited how we do that, right? We only have 5 senses in which we do that. We take in some light or sound or smell or taste or touch or some combination of those. Put your hand through a candle and you're gonna, you'll see the light, you'll smell the wax, you'll feel the heat. You'll hear the crackle if you have hair on your head, especially it'll kind of crackle the hair on your hands. And this experience is very limited. But now we take in this limited experience of that, the sight and sounds, and then now we have to do something with that. We don't take it in directly. We're not able to do that. There's actually a barrier between this objective world, that the of reality, the thing that's greater than the 5 senses that we see it with, and then we process that through our filter. That filter is a vocabulary. How else can we understand if not through vocabulary. So we're forced to do this thing which can be limiting or powerful, which is we take the phenomena and now we have to define it using words. And so we do that, and now it limits the experience even further. So we take in a tiny little sliver of it through the 5 senses, and then we limit it further by defining it through words. And then it creates forms in our mind, and we see the world. We see sights, we hear sounds, we feel cold, hot, soft, wet, whatever. And then, but we still haven't processed it yet, because now it's a jumble of words. So what do? What we do is that we tell a story about what that means. We give it context. This is a mental activity. This is all happening in the brain, not in reality. Reality just is what it is. We took it in, and now all this is going on in our brains. So then we tell a story about what it is that we experienced, and now once we've told that story, we react to the story. We don't react to the thing. We don't react to the event itself. We react to the story that we tell about the event. And to us, that's the truth. Now, what we have to discern here is that we are not the storyteller, right? We're the observer of the story. The storyteller is the ego, and it does not care about us. And it's incumbent upon us to... We can't deafen it. We can't kill it. We can't stop it. I know there's a lot of work that everyone's heard about, destroying the ego. That's much more serious than you think. What we have to do is recognize what it is and use it. We need to recognize what it is and take agency over it, because we can't destroy it. We have to work within it. It's like trying to live in fourth dimensional reality in a 3D body with 5 senses and think you're going to accomplish that. You won't. You can touch 4D. You can experience it through other means, but we can't go there physically. That's a misunderstanding of what 4D is, right? And so it's the same idea. And what we need to do is to use that as a jumping off point and as a vehicle to speak the appropriate vocabulary with the self to make these changes occur. Now, how and when we can go about doing that is up to us. And there's certain periods of time during our lives or during the environment that we live in that are more conducive to that are just kind of helping us along based on where we are or the period of time that we find ourselves in culturally, technologically. Look at what's happening here, that we have the ability to use this tool. Hello, yes, absolutely. I'll be opening the list up, and because of the timing of the time, because of our cultures and our technology allows this to happen. So it's up to us when we are prepared to take those steps and to go through the work of recognizing the voice of the ego so that we can know it compared to the truth. And when we do hear the voice of truth, we will recognize that as soul talk, right? So in the meantime, let's jump in here. Shika, thank you for popping in on the stream. So one of the things that I do here for anyone who pops in on my stream and participates is a free personal message. So all I would need is your day and month of birth. I don't need the year. And I can locate your birth card and we can move forward. Okay. And in the meantime, I hope everyone's having a good night. I know, I had a sort of an interesting impromptu stream that kind of got a little emotional. I don't know, just put it that way. It got a little emotional. And, you know, I discovered after kind of looking back and saying, okay, what's going on here? There's a lot of this tension that is sort of on a global level, right? And we have to really be careful that we don't identify with a lot of the stuff that's going on, because there's all these conflicting energies coming from every direction, and it's kind of a lot to take in. And we need to be able to have the power to face this together, this coming period of time that we're in. You know, we're entering a period that's unavoidable, all of us, and none of us are immune to it, even the creators of the problem. So what we can do is prepare, and what we can do is, if we do decide to fight, is do that together. Don't just assume that we can do this alone, and that we don't need each other to make sure that we're able to get through this properly. Right? It's more important that we all succeed than we let our egos feel like we don't need the help. Right? So, Jeannie, how's it going? I don't know how long everybody's been here, but there seems to be a lot of need for personal healing centered around a certain type of energy that has been coming up lately, especially, but coming up very dense the past, I would say, several months. That there's something's coming to a culmination, and you know, we need to be aware of it. First of all, Saji, if you're still in the room, what I'm doing is I have kind of like a random card for everyone that pops in, and so I didn't see the chat until now, so I missed that. This is just your random. This is a random card for Saji. Six of Pentacles. We'll talk about that in a second. This is the Deviant Moon. Okay. And so I'm just going to leave that there, and we'll talk about that in a second. But in the meantime, for Sheikah, Jay's message for you. Okay, so what we have here, the King of Cups is somebody that we can typically we look to and can rely upon for emotional fuel, stability. And what I mean by that is that this is more not their message for you. Renee, thank you for popping in on the stream. This here is somebody that you look toward for that. So this isn't necessarily their message for you. It's more about giving me an indication of your motivation toward them. This is who you see them as, right? Now the idea here is that, I don't know if you've ever heard the old saying of, you know, if you love it, let it go, and if it comes back, it was meant to be. This is the Three of Swords. This is arguably the most iconic image in the tarot, right? There are several images in the tarot that kind of elicit an emotional response upon viewing. The most iconic version of that is the Three of Swords. Let me pop up the Rider-Waite version, okay, so that we can like have some context here. I like the Anatolian. Thank you so much, Renee, and I'll put you on the list. This is the Tarot of the Abyss, and this is the Anatolian version. Now look what she's done here. There's a hole in her heart, the shape of the bird. Come on. Is that like perfect symbolism? But then and she's in the process of letting it go. Let it go. If it returns, it'll fit right back in there. And if not, that's okay, because now that this space is open, it's available to be filled with, should be there. Okay, so I hope that was insightful, Sheikah. If you're interested in something a little more in depth, you know, I'm available for any of the readings that we talked about, including the new Soul Talk spread that as I go through this process, there's certain things that I'm going to begin to share that are kind of personal. The Mind, Body, Soul is the first one that I decided to begin sharing with people, and the Soul Talk is the second one. And so that's available as well. Otherwise, all I ask from anybody, if you find any value in what I'm doing, please like the video and consider a comment, even if it's something as simple as thank you for your time, or you stink and you were totally wrong. Like, it really makes a huge difference. The reason any of you are looking at me right now is because I was put in front of you by the robots, and the robots read comments, and that's how they decide. And so it makes a difference. So thank you for that. Okay, so now let's look at the list here. Saji, do you want to be put on the list? If so, let me know. You were first. Otherwise, the new order is going to be Renee. And Saji, if you're still here. There's a few people who popped in on the stream earlier, and if you're still here, then let me know and I'll put you back on the list. If not, then this is the order right now. And so let's actually do this here. Okay. All right. This list is open. Okay. Oh, look what I've done. That's better. Okay. Yeah, it's always good to look up occasionally when typing. I should know that I code. All right, so this is just a random card, right? Just to pop out just for the heck of it. This is the Deviant Moon by Patrick Valenza. There's a link in the description for this deck. I do not earn an affiliate commission or anything. It's directly to his website, and I encourage, please, if you are going to purchase this deck, the Deviant Moon, do so through his website if you can, right? Like, don't... Amazon has enough money. Let's, you know, spread it in the community, you know what I mean? Beautiful deck. Very intimate and personal to the artist. Obviously, this is obviously a window into this person's experience. This great deck, though. Okay, so and now Renee, here's a random card for you, and then we'll get to your question about Dennis. Six of Wands. The Six of Wands is really a cool card. The Six of Wands is the idea of gaining the respect of the people around you because you've done something and were successful, like you won the battle, so to speak, or you were able to do something that others weren't, or for whatever reason you're looked up to. And this gives you an important power. This gives you the power to gather people toward a specific goal, right? Not that you're a cult leader, but you probably could be. And you know, the way Patrick draws it is actually almost like that, right? Like this person's there, they're wearing the crown, and he did include the green, which I think was a nice touch because, you know, there's a lot of occult meaning in that, the Ouroboros, and in the, you know, that ivy crown, right? And then you have the wands. He even went as far as having the little leaves stick out, so it's kind of very RWS, you know. But at the same time, they're kind of looking up and worshiping this person, right? Like, you know, almost like the soldier chant. Very much in the way that the soldiers would respect the leader, you know, the general. But with that comes responsibility, because there is a power there, and that power is that, you know, when you talk, the people who you influence listen, and so it's important that you're responsible about how you use that power. Okay, so that's your random card, Renee. In the meantime, let's take a look at what's going on with Dennis. And for that, I'm going to be using... It is, isn't it? The artist is really something. I mean... And his other work, too, is... All of it is dark. It's just his thing. And you see past it. Like, at first I was concerned that when I read the deck, it would lead me down dark paths, right? Like, it would always kind of, like, speak to me in dark language. It doesn't. You have to almost kind of look at it like each deck is similar to our bodies. You know, we're born a certain way, but that doesn't mean that's who we are. We are not what we look like. Imagine somebody born with a big scar on their face, but they're a lovely soul that people are afraid of, right? That's the Deviant Moon. It has a beautiful voice, doesn't it? So, let's take a look at what's going on with Dennis. All right. Yep. Okay, one more. Huh, okay, yep. Now. Okay, so this is emotional immaturity, right? Like, not ready. You think they are, and you're kind of like, you know there's something there. There's an enthusiasm, for sure. And that enthusiasm is also a want to please. You know, like there's but at the same time, there's also a selfishness. And there's almost an evenness to that exchange, okay? I just want to zoom in so you can see that card right there, right? And that's what we're talking about here. Okay. Now, the sun. Let's talk about the sun. The sun, it shines. It's beautiful. It's bright. It's, you know. But now here's the lesson of the sun. There's all these different levels of meaning. The outer level of the sun is the sun is beautiful, and there's, you know, naked babies dancing on hills, and, you know, there's this beautiful shine, and it's all gorgeous, and, you know. But then there's this other level of meaning on the inside, and that's that the sun shines on everything. And that includes lies and truth. And so it is incumbent upon us to discern the difference between the lie and the truth. And that's not always easy. Sometimes we need some help with that. What the sun also tells us, the innermost, is very often in the artwork is a wall. There's a wall separating you at the top of the hill that prevents you from reaching the top, okay? And so it's kind of like the idea of don't look too close to the sun, because not only will it burn your eyes, but you can't actually ever get there. It's too awesome. It's too big. It's too unapproachable. But it is the giver of life. And, you know, one of the feelings I'm getting with respect to that is that this is an ideal that can't actually be achieved. That's kind of one of the things that the sun represents. Now, the final card, I'm going to put these together and keep that on top, this final card. Her depiction of it is quite lovely. The Lovers. Okay, so now that's a good card, right? I mean, that's what you asked about, at least this individual. Like it's a person, a connection that you're talking about, and you get the Lovers. But now the Lovers, let's not fall into the trap of thinking, oh, we're getting married. Oh, we're going to share roots. We're going to be together and grow old, and, you know. That's the outer meaning. The outer meaning of the Lovers is love. But now let's look at truth, because you're here for the truth, I hope. If you're here to hear what you want to hear, sunshine, and he's got his cups are full for you, and there's love, right? But then there's the inner meaning. The sun is actually unattainable and can hurt you if you get too close. There's an emotional immaturity where there is an eager to please you, but at the same time is selfishness, and he's not really ready to give you what you need. And then we have this here. Of course, I hope so. You should be far from that. But now, let's look at these two cards, right? So now, I brought up the Rider-Waite version because that's a very familiar image, and the symbolism here is important. Because what is that? It's Adam and Eve. And so it's really the idea of temptation, not love, right? The outer meaning is love. That inner meaning is temptation. Now there's a third meaning. And the third meaning is also a warning. And that is that temptation leads to the fall. But in the fall, we have this opportunity to do the work to get back. But when you're talking about a relationship, especially if it's not one you're sure about and it's not some kind of karmic connection, but it's more of like an interest that you think might go somewhere, this is not a good sign. So what I'd say is that, you know, if you do decide to connect with this individual, that's okay. It's not like you're going to hurt each other, but there is the risk of emotional injury, emotional lack of fulfillment. Okay. So I'll stop there and actually just ask really quickly if you wanted me to expand on that in any way, or do you have any questions about what I've uncovered thus far? Because we can get to the heart of the immaturity here, or we can say, you know, like, what's the... As far as the sun is concerned, right, there's a specific circumstance there, I would imagine that. Like, what is the light that you're looking at? What is the thing that is the sun in this circumstance for you? That you think you can attain, but you really can't. Like, that's a question to ask. Or we could say, you know... Yeah, when you have to consider why that is, that's that selfishness, you know. You know, the deal with the page is, you know, I've said a couple times eager to please, and I want to clarify that. Yes, that's definitely one of the parts of the Page of Cup in particular. But eager to please is a sign of immaturity. Availability is a sign of inferiority, right? It's like this idea that, you know, they're doing it in order that they are liked. And it's really an ego move. It's not, there's not a caring there. They just appear to. And then, so when you're actually, it's time to put up and it's time to give because you've asked, is when, you know, suddenly instead of it being a source of emotional fulfillment, it becomes a source of, like a negative flow of emotion, right? And that's where you can have the negative emotions come out. It's almost like the anger that comes with them being forced to face the part that they don't want to face about themselves, and that changes with time. That they will grow out of that, but they're not. That's not where they are now, right? And so again, it's kind of like they're not ready. They're not, which is sort of where that began. That's kind of where the reading began with this card. They're just not. They're not ready to give you what it is that you need. So if you do go there, have fun, play, but that's all it is. It's only play. You know, it's not going to go anywhere. You know, and that's okay. I mean, if you're both adults and you're deciding this is what you want to do, be adults doing what adults do, but don't expect it to be more. Okay, Brianna, thank you for popping in. And let's see what's going on the list here. Saji, if you're still here, say hey, and if not, I'm going to put Brianna on here. And Renee, all I ask, and I'll ask of anybody that pops in on my stream is if you find any value in what I'm doing, please like the video, consider a comment. Comments make a huge difference when trying to grow a channel. I mean, and YouTube, it's frankly really hard to grow. It's harder than you think to get to that threshold of 1,000 subscribers. It's really, really tough. I've been on this platform for 6 years. I've been doing tarot on this platform for several years. 250 subscribers, something like that, 220, 230, right? So it makes a big difference. So that said, you know, I hope that helped, Renee, and you know, pop in any other time if you want to ask another question. And I'm certainly available for a private reading if we find that can help. Just let me know. You can either direct message, email, or you can text me at that number. I also have WhatsApp, so you can use WhatsApp as well. That phone number works on WhatsApp. So, all right, thank you, and thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. I mean it. It means a lot that people participate in the stream. And Brianna, once we're done with your reading, then I'm going to move on to the sub and the subjects, and I encourage anybody who's in the room to stick around, because we're going to be talking about going through this beautiful piece of work, which is the Deviant Moon Tarot. Okay, and we'll be looking at that in a moment. And also the beautiful soul of this week. People may recognize his face, and we're going to be discussing that shortly after my reading with Brianna. Just a beautiful, gentle, wise character in our community here. So stick around for that. Okay, so and there's a link in the description as well for both the Deviant Moon deck, which I don't earn a commission on. That goes to his website, Patrick Valenza is the artist, and to Hermit Cave, who is Simon's website there. And we're going to talk about him in a moment there. So in the meantime, Roberta, please tell me if you see any changes. Okay. Well, one thing I can guarantee is change. First of all, I mean, guaranteed, right? The period of time that we're in right now is the 9 of Pentacle, and we're moving into the 10. And what the 10 of Pentacle actually represents in a lot of cases is this energy that you're looking at the time over a period. Like it's this idea of the different stages of life, right? You've got the old gentleman in the front, the parents that are busy doing their thing day to day, and the baby on the bottom. It's like this cycle, and it refers to that cycle. And in this case, this is the end of the cycle of Earth. Okay, so that said, change is inevitable. We are designed in order to navigate change, right? That's why we evolve, and that's why we heal, and that's why we can stretch and move, and because change is the vehicle by which existence happens. And so wherever you are, you won't be there soon. Whatever you're doing, you won't be doing it soon. Whoever you think you are, you aren't, and you won't be. And think about who you were 5 years ago. I'm a completely different person. I really am. So let's see what that change is going to be. Putting down the sword. Stop fighting. Now, here's the deal about the Four of Swords. It refers to peace. But why peace? Because you've decided to stop fighting. So it's not that you've won the war and the war is over. It's about taking the high ground and saying, you know what, I'm just going to put the sword down. So now there's peace. Because we can keep fighting over and over, and this circle can go on forever and ever. And you know what? One of us has to be the better person and just give it up. And stop fighting. Let go of the fight. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean that you're in an argument and you're deciding that you're not going to argue anymore. This can also mean that you have experienced wrong and are finally in a position of letting go of the fact that everybody know that, or that you feel like you haven't been correctly compensated for whatever happened. Like you haven't gotten the recognition, or you haven't gotten whatever it is you're looking for. This would be the time to put the sword down and move on, right? Also, and this is an important realization when you're dealing with the small cards especially, is considering the element that we're talking about, right? We're talking about air here, which is the sword, which is mental. We're not talking about the heart. We're not talking about the root chakra. We're speaking about the mind. Lucky Empress, hello. Absolutely, you're next. You're next on the list. Let me actually put you down so that it's ready to go there. And thank you for popping in on the stream. I appreciate it. Okay. So, first of all, it has to be a willing act. The idea of the Four of Sword, Crowley called it truce. And actually, well, not Crowley, the Golden Dawn called it truce. Crowley, he kept their interpretation of that. And if we look at the Deacons, which is also a period of time, in a way that we can... Oh, Tavon, absolutely, we can put you on. And then we're going to take a look at that. Okay. So if we look at the Four of Sword, and this, comes from the Golden Dawn system, which comes even older than that, from like Eliphas Levi, and the even older than that. Basically, the Hermetic and the ancient esoteric is where this originally derived, and then was made popular by the Golden Dawn and Crowley and so on. Very, very powerful tool for tarot. So we're going to look at the Four of Sword, and that'll be on that green section there in Libra. And we'll see that this represents Jupiter in Libra. Jupiter in Libra. So if you're familiar with the language of astrology, consider what that means, right? Jupiter in Libra. Libra is the idea of balance and wanting that middle. And then applying Jupiter to that, which is like this, a jovial nature, the power that comes from being able to walk away and let go and stopping the fight. Like, it really takes the big one to be the one to walk away, doesn't it? And so that's where this energy comes from, okay? And so that's the idea, basically, of the changes in your life soon are coming from the fact that you need to be the one to take the step of putting down the sword. You have to be the bigger one and say, instead of trying to win, I'm going to stop fighting. It's related to a man. Look at this. King of Pentacle, Queen of Cup. But you're the one who's been distant. Whatever the resource was that they were to you kind of disappeared in your world, and so you began to change your behavior. And that led to some issues here. Now, what we need to do is to consider, what is this circumstance? Who is that? Is that a love interest? Is it a family member? Is it somebody that you look to as a mentor? But whatever it is, you've turned away from that. And that turning away is the act that we need to change. We need to put the sword down. Whoever this person is, I say that you would need to maybe, consider contacting them and having a conversation. There doesn't need to be any fault here. It's about putting the sword down. It's about saying enough. This is also typically a pretty volatile circumstance emotionally, and you don't have to be that. You don't have to feel that. There are ways that you can readjust that energy, right? And let me explain what that means. Like, you're about to enter some situation that is kind of scary, and so you generate the strength to do that, and we have a word for that called courage. Courage is the act of fighting even though you're afraid, But then you're in the fight and you're doing good and you get confident, and now the fear's gone, so the courage is gone. But if that's okay, because the energy that was built is still there, it's just not in the form of courage anymore. Now it's in the form of power. It's the same idea here. And so you can take that thing that you're carrying in this cup and you can change it into something else. And the way that we do that is by kind of taking agency of the story that's told that forms those emotions, right? And we can, by reaching out here and laying out the truth that, what are we doing? Like, what's this circumstance? And it's time to put these down. It might even elicit them doing the same thing. And then suddenly this connection could just go, right? Wow, yeah. These two Well, this refers to this. This is the important message here. That would be a circumstance we could look into, and you would know if this refers to two specific individuals. Certainly, it's hard not to see that this is two people, right? But this here is specifically a willful act of laying down the swords. Now, you state in here, taken from you. This would refer rather to giving them up, right? Unless somebody else had the decision, and that would make sense to say, like, for instance, if this were the person that made the decision that they go back to Mexico, and you were not involved in that decision, that would certainly affect this circumstance here, and this might be the time for you to have that conversation, right? I mean, you would know the circumstances of how that came about, and if this person was related to the decision for that to happen, or somehow kind of like assisted in it happening. Ultimately, what we're seeing here, though, is that we can't ignore pain. We can't ignore the things that open wounds. We have to be open to. Tavon, no, not yet. You're after Lucky Empress. Haven't done it yet. Nope. So that's it. We can't. We have to. It happened. We have to be able to look at it and mourn it. But then we have to be able to move on as well. And to live within the reality and the constraints of that circumstance, so that we can have relationships that are healthy instead of under the cloud, say, of the negativity. One example of that is people who have limited access to their children. You have to make every kind of second count, so to speak, and that's important. Let's see. Okay, wow. Yeah, this is a pretty complicated circumstance that, I would say is out of the scope of like a general free reading on the internet. But let's just talk about this for a minute, And to anyone in the room, I will get to you in a moment here. I feel like that we should, just take a moment to recognize the severity of the situation and not undermine that, and kind of talk about what's happening here. Man, that's like a real emptiness. That's a real emptiness. Can we all just in the room take a second? I just want to. I don't. Whatever your religion is, I'm sure it's pretty diverse. I've looked at my statistics, and it's a pretty broad audience religiously. A lot of different faiths, but faith nonetheless. So whatever the name of your god is, Shiva, Muhammad, I don't care, Christ, whatever. Let's just take a moment and just put some love to this person, and to recognize no matter what occurs and no matter what decisions are made that are within or without our control, there is a level of that being the will of God. And oftentimes, our compulsion is to pray for what we want. But instead, what we need to do is to pray for the strength to weather what He wants. And what's best for the children, or what's best for you, may not be what we want or what we think, and that might not be easy to see until decades down the line even. And we have to have faith. And we have to be able to, regardless of these things that are happening to us, find the time when we can to be in a state of love. Easier said than done. especially when we're talking about people that have hurt us or that we're literally in the midst of feeling the pain of a wound. And sometimes the wound is too big to heal, and that's just reality. And that's when we need to be more open to, rather than healing or trying to make something that's hurt what it used to be, we have to be open to this new thing that we're going to become. Life will never be the same. It's never going to be the same. And so we can't look backward. And now, looking forward, it's very important that we try to do that without using the past as the lens. And we have to be open to what is going to be. And when we do that, in a state of self-love and in a state of truth, then what we create and what we walk into is more right for us. And we can be in a place of attracting love instead of hate, or being in a position to give love when we have the chance to do that. So I'm so sorry. And God, the universe, whoever conspired to put you here now for some reason. And I think it's important to take the opportunity to say that I love you and I'm sorry you feel what you're feeling right now. And I think that there's people even in this room who the universe conspired for them to be here also feel the same thing. You're not alone. That we've all had some level of loss that we never could imagine would happen to us. And if we haven't, we're lucky. And I can imagine what you experience every day. And what I can say is that you have the power to transform that energy into love. And when you do that, everything changes. And it's slow. You have to be ready for that. And you have a right to be in a state of mourning and have a right to be in a state of sadness for the loss. But don't identify with the loss. Identify with the love. And thank you for saying that. And so that said, I encourage you to pop in on the stream anytime you want, and we can chat about that if you'd like. But one thing I would encourage you to do as well, and I'm just going to put the offer out there. It's up to you. But if you want to, you can email me or you can call or text me at that number, and we can discuss resources at your local level that can help maybe put you in a place that can make sense of what you're feeling, which is totally right. What you're feeling is normal. Whether that's a spiritual resource locally, like a church or a spiritual leader, or whether it's resources that are available through your local community for, to begin the process of healing and transformation, right? And so if you need help doing that, I'm happy to help you with that. And I have resources available to me as well through individuals and work that I've done here that can point you in the right direction for that, okay? And so just consider that. That said, Lucky Empress, I guess you're next on the list here. And thank you for joining the stream and allowing me to participate, hopefully, in you walking closer to your truth, and somehow being able to kind of block out the din of the world, right? I hope so. Thank you. And I hope so. And again, I'm open to that. And if you're overseas and it's a problem to call, I'm on WhatsApp. And so we can have the conversation that way. And, again, find local resources that can help you. There's people locally that are trained to see this from the right place and to give you what you need. Okay? And we can find those people for you. So that said, Lucky Empress, I don't remember if you had popped in a question there. Yeah, okay, a few cards for the law. Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so let's see. I like this deck, so I'm going to stick with it, unless you have a particular preference. I have a number of decks that I've used. If you've been on the stream, then you know there's several, but this is a list kind of what's immediately available to me right now that I can like grab if needed. Right now I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss by Anatorian. And I like this for love readings. Her imagery is really, it's good stuff. Great. Yep, same deck. Sounds good. Okay, let's just take a look first at the environment that you're surrounded in right now. Like, what's going on with your spirit, and what is it putting out with respect to connections, and what's it putting out? Oh, okay, great, and that's awesome. I love that. Because that's what that is how we're communicating with the world, our want, our desire, and how we communicate that determines what we get back, right? And so let's take a look at sort of the environment of what you're putting out. This could be very subconscious, it could be very sort of in behind the scenes, or it can be conscious. But let's take a look. That's the first card that we're gonna look at. Strength. I like her depiction. Strength is the part of our bodies that is activated when we are acting afraid, right? Courage occurs, the battle rages, confidence builds, courage is no longer necessary, we're in a state of strength. Strength is fearlessness. It's not acting in spite of fear, but it's acting fearless. And we can access that strength whenever we need it, if we recognize that it's available to us. It's also the idea of gentleness. It's not the first inclination when you see the card, a lion, and the power that comes with that, right? All these connotations that are elicited by the image of a lion. But we also have the woman, and the woman controls the lion. The lion would never think of hurting her. And so imagine the animal that's fearless looking at her with respect. So who has the strength here, right? And so there's two types of strength. There's the strength that comes from fear, and the strength that comes from love. And now, if people are familiar with the idea of like the mafia, very often that's the state of the mob boss, right? He's either loved or feared, and there's a power in both. Those who love him would die for him. Those who fear him would do anything to not die because of him. And you see the difference between these two people? And what you can be is one or the other when necessary. And it's incumbent upon us to decide appropriately when that is. We don't want to be the lion when we should be the woman. We don't want to be the woman when we should be the lion. Now here is a very interesting thing here. Okay, so the Five of Swords is this sort of idea of in this case, it's almost like a bullying to a degree, like a torture, like a bullying. One of the personalities is much more dominant than the other. And in the rider system, you'll see that maybe a little more apparently. And so let's pop that card out, just so that we can have context. Okay. The individual, and let's look at the rider system here. And the individual in the front that's holding the two swords and has the other one down. Then you have the person in the middle that's kind of walking toward the back. And then there's the one in the back that's like got their head down and they're like, all upset. Now there's a story that's happening here. And what that story is that these three people conspired and did some work together and they created something. And then the person in the front benefited while the other two got nothing. He didn't respect the work. There was never an intent for him to actually share in the rewards, but he made them think so. It's like a charlatan, but somebody you trust too. It's not just somebody that did you wrong. It's somebody that you trusted, and they willfully harmed you so that they can benefit in some way. Okay, and so that's kind of the lesson of this card here. And then when we look at that with respect to this process, we have finally the sun, which is this idea of this bright giver of light, but is ultimately unattainable. There's a sensation of reverence, but there's a point you can't get too close. So what we're looking at here is this individual is obviously somebody that needs to be avoided, but you have a problem with that. There's a problem avoiding this person, even if they've asked you to do things you didn't want, or they made you feel a way that it wasn't appropriate and you didn't feel empowered. There was this thing that draws you, and it's not benefiting you. This is an idea of a breakup that occurred in the past. This is not going to happen. This happened. Now, this strength occurred because of that. But now you're in this weird position. Now you're seeking validation, and you're taking on a lot of stuff emotionally in order to do that, right? Like you're kind of like don't want that to happen again, and so you're putting out like a weird energy of want, and in doing so, you're putting yourself in a position to potentially be used. And so it's very important. The Ten of Wands is really a card of not only is this person carrying the burden, but it's a willing carrying. They're choosing to do it so that people will like them, or they're doing it because they have this idea that there's a feeling that if I don't, then I won't be accepted, or a feeling that like I feel inadequate, and so if I do this, I'm going to feel empowered, but it's not actually serving you. It's not necessary for you to use your strength to help every single person you can at every moment, to the point that you become overextended and you can't anymore. You don't want to do that. It's okay to just pick up a couple. And then next time pick up a couple more. And it's okay for there to be sort of a balance between give and take. You'll still be liked. You'll still be loved. Okay, yeah. And it looks like there was some stuff that went on there. That wasn't a very smooth relationship. Right? Now let's look at the final card here. This is the action card. This is the thing that you should take into consideration with your next move. This is the Seven of Swords. Those of us in the community know the rider is someone kind of tiptoeing away, right? Like they've done something wrong, like they got away with something. Where's that? Got a lot of swords going on today. This deck is shuffled 20 kabillion times, so it's just a lot of swords coming out. But you see the Seven of Swords here compared to this one, like the difference of there's sort of a sneakiness here, but here also there's like a spying, like they're watching and you don't know it. So this is idea that, you may have broken up 7 years ago, but they're still watching. There's a dishonesty there. And you have to kind of consider that. Now also, him holding this sword the way he is implies that there's a motivation. Now that doesn't mean that this person is thinking about acting violent against you. I want to be clear, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that he pops in to see how you're doing. He looks at your social media. He asks people about you. Keeps tabs. And there's a motivation behind that. So that said, I hope that was insightful. I mean, if there's any particular circumstance that you need additional help on, I'm available for private readings, or, we can get into something like, for instance, a Celtic cross to get to the heart of that. We could do a mind, body, soul, or something more advanced like a house spread. But there's a lot of different circumstances that maybe could address further issues that are maybe a little out of the scope of like a quick free reading, but I'm certainly open for. Okay. And, anytime you'd like, you can pop in on the stream again, and we can look at, different circumstances or different manifestations of this connection, because it seems like there's a little more complexity there. If the sword is the card of mental energy, the 7 refers that there's more than just one thing going on here. I mean, there's the idea of that dishonesty, but what is it? What do they think they're getting? Like, what's their currency in the situation, right? Okay, Tavon, if you're still here, give me a hey, and then I'll know that you are, and we can proceed. And if not, very quickly, I'm going to close the list temporarily. Tavon, if you're here, you're next. And then we'll go through some of the topics, like, for instance, the tarot talk, understanding the chord cards, and Beautiful Soul. Tavon, great, awesome. And so, and the Beautiful Soul for today is a special person. I try to pick people that are in the tarot community that I feel like are walking their talk. So the person today, I think, fits right in there. So, all right, Tavon. So let's take a look at. I know I've seen you in the stream before, but I haven't done a reading for you yet, and so I appreciate you popping back in. Let's take a look at. First off, if let's find your birth card, right? And now that the way this is done is locating your birthday on the outer portion of this wheel, and then we can find the small card associated with that day, right, or that period of time. It's actually a 10-day period of time, a 10-degree section. And if you're not able to see the wheel, then just put in your month and day of your birth, and then I can locate it for you. And I'll shuffle in the meantime. And actually, since you're going to be my last reading, I'm going to switch to the Deviant Moon deck, which is the Spotlight. And so we can begin to get a sense of some of those cards. And it'll be a fun way to kind of do both. And so, Tavon, if you can put your month and day of birth in the chat, that'll let me grab your birth card, and then we can move forward with the reading. These cards are just buttery smooth. The feel, they're thin but not too thin, and they have a nice semi-gloss. They're not totally matte, but they're not too shiny. But the cards flow nice. At first, they were a little... July 16th, okay. They were a little odd on the hands, because they're like much longer than a standard tarot card, but thinner. And so it was at first a little weird. Like, it's almost like a very long rectangle. I wonder if it's a specific ratio. So let's locate your birth card. 4 of Cup. 4 of Cup. Interestingly, the 4 of Cup appears in, I think, yesterday's daily reading. But let's pop it up. And now the period of time that we're in as well, and this goes for everybody, the period of time that we're in right now is the 9 of Pentacle, and we're moving into the 10 of Pentacle. And with respect to the major arcana for that time, it's the Hermit, okay? So that's why I have these 2 cards up, the 9 of Pentacle and the Hermit, because this is the period of time that we're all in, and it's an energy that we're all in the process of navigating. And we'll be moving into the 10 tomorrow. And so tomorrow's stream is going to be a good one, because we're going to be talking about the transition, okay? And so now, Tavon, your birth card does not change throughout your life. It's very similar to your sun sign. So, throughout your life thus far, people have asked you, hey, what's your sign? And up until this point, you've told them, rightfully so, the Cancer, or you've told them, like, my son's in Cancer, or whatever the case may be. But now you can also add to that the moon in Cancer. Because if you'll notice, the influence of the Four of Cups is the moon in Cancer, where the 3 is Mercury, where the 2 is Venus. The Four of Cups is ruled by the moon in Cancer. Okay, so it's a slightly different energy than strictly Cancer. Incidentally, the major arcana that is represented by Cancer is Chariot. So that said, though, let's see what we can see. Firstly, as far as your horoscope for the next several days, based on this sentence, which is your birth card and the card of the period of time that we're in, 4 is cynicism and disdain for your environment, like a lack of respect for your government or for the people, or like there's just a general sort of cynical nature because of past experience, these cups in the front of you, to such a degree, in fact, that if someone were to even put the truth out and say, here's the truth, you won't hear it. Like there's a kind of like you're just done emotionally. And now the period of time that we're in and changing from and moving out of is the 9, which is this period of rest. And the period of rest is there because we have let go of the anxiety that comes with the imposition of the world and these things. But the warning is if we haven't done the work, we have the loss that comes from the missed opportunity, which is a very different energy than that benefit. And so what we need to do is we have to avoid the compulsion to ignore the future for thinking it's the same as the past. The future is not always written from the past. In fact, it's never. Just because it seems like it happens every time, that's just in our mind. And we have to be able to allow joy into our lives rather than focusing on the past. Okay. So now, you show up when others don't, and you're tired of lazy people. You know, it's like, why do I have to be the one to carry? You know, it's like, why do I have to be the one to show up when others don't? That's tiring, you know? Clean Music Lover, hello, thanks for popping in. There's a motivation here, though. There's something that you want, and that something is a woman, right? And there is this energy about it. There's a fire. It's kind of like, you know, there's some people that have to try really hard to flirt. There's like an energy that, and you can tell that they're trying hard. Like the person that whenever they go on Facebook to take a picture, they're like, you know, like doing some stupid pose. And then there's other people that are just naturally being themselves, and there's kind of an aura of beauty about them, right? This person is like that. Like there's sort of a natural kind of raw beauty about them. And it motivates people. But now there's this thing, right? It's like everybody has their currency. And I understand that you have to do what you have to do. But you know what? It's like there needs to be a balance between give and take, because it's not sustainable for you to keep constantly fighting. Like there needs to be a point where you say, okay, well, instead of me kind of being strong and whatever, it's time to enroll others in this process. And what I see happening here is that this woman becomes part of that process, meaning that like there's something that you do, a talent, a skill, that you may even have considered monetizing or making a business out of. And what I'm saying is that you should not do that alone, that this woman has something to contribute to that. that you're looking at her in the wrong way. You're looking at her in a way that is kind of like root chakra, when you should be looking at her more like with your brain, right? And who is she? It doesn't even have to be a female, but there's this person, this energy is familial. There's a leadership, meaning that like there's a respect here that you and you, that respect has garnered an authority that is natural for you to feel. Like there's something about this person's energy that you just feel the authority of it, and you kind of accept that. And remember, authority is given. It's a participation between them wanting it and you saying, all right, and giving that authority up. And you're doing that willingly to this person, but in the wrong way. Because the two of you can actually wind up doing something very special together. Almost like, again, taking something that you do well, but you're doing alone right now, and you don't have to fight alone. What you need to do is to just recruit the right steps, right? Could be, if that's how you feel about her, if she has this kind of primal energy and there's an enthusiasm that she's able to draw in other people, even if she doesn't seem necessarily enthusiastic, other people become motivated by her. That's who this person is. And you're looking at her in the wrong way. So it very well could be your ex. Like you hadn't considered working together in a business. Some exes are able to do that. I'm a divorced man with children, and my ex and I are able to talk. And we have a relationship. And, you know, it's cordial and friendly and polite. And there's no reason it can't be that, right? Could her and I do business together? Probably. I imagine we would. Yeah, I don't see any reason we couldn't if it was the right product and we were both in it together and committed, you know. And if you have that, then you're lucky. But what I would say is there's an opportunity here for something that you're doing or have done on your own that that you can enroll somebody else in and actually grow and sort of monetize, create a value with, that you can potentially even profit from. So consider that, okay? And so that said, I'm going to be ending the stream here in a moment. And so what I'd like to do is to complete the evening with a very positive message. I had considered doing a segment related to local news, national or international news, and I thought that was very negative. And rather than do that, I would focus on like love, people walking their talk. And so what I did is I created something where every day I'm going to find somebody in the tarot community that I think is doing exactly that, that's spreading love and that's walking their talk. And the individual that I've chosen, the link is in the description to this person's website and their YouTube channel. His name is Simon, and he runs a channel called The Hermit's Cave. And now I came across Hermit's Cave by searching for a certain tarot deck. And he had apparently done a review on that, and then found that he has this channel that's been going for quite some time of reviews and a lot of magical work, goddess stuff. And then all kinds of personal little intimate connections. And now there are more tarot channels on YouTube than need to be. And it can be hard to sift through the good, the bad, and the ugly. But there's a few that stand out because their energy is real and authentic. And I think we've all become very sensitive to bullshit. I know I have. I can smell it from a mile away. And I have a very deep disdain and disrespect for it. I have no tolerance. The world is already poison. Like, why add to it? And then there's the reverse of that, and there's people who are doing a very beautiful, magical thing, and that's that they've decided, for whatever reason, that they will shine their own inner light rather than reflect the world. And so it draws attention of seekers. That light becomes visible to seekers. And I think that Simon here is doing that. And now this is a screenshot of his YouTube channel, right? And there's a link in the description too, so please go visit his channel and give some love back to this person who's giving it so much that, you know, the least we can do is give him a little bit back. I think it's important that we maintain the integrity of this art. This art can very easily be taken by the subculture, by the zeitgeist, and turned into something that it's not. And it's important for us to maintain the integrity of this art and to keep it sacred. And you'll see that this is an individual that I believe does that. So his name is Simon. The website is Hermit's Cave. His personal website is in the description, as well as his YouTube channel. Okay, so please check him out. All right. And so to everybody else who joined the stream today, the spotlight deck was Deviant Moon. Beautiful deck. Check out the link in the description as well. I don't earn anything from it. It's not an affiliate link. This goes right to the artist. Please, if you're going to buy this deck, buy it from the artist. They deserve that. Okay. Amazon has enough money. Otherwise, some of the other topics that we addressed today, if you have any questions about, you can either give me a call or a text message at that phone number, or a direct message or email, and we can talk about your own individual circumstance. Otherwise, thanks so much, and I appreciate everybody who joined the stream today. If you found any value in what I'm doing, please check out my other videos. I post 4 a day, or just like and consider a comment. It really goes a long way to letting the robot know that I should be shown to more people. Okay? So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.